The Curse of Humpty Dumpty is actually pretty good. And I say actually because the ratings online are not the highest. So my advice there would be, if it seems like it might work for you, if you're curious, give it a go. You might actually enjoy it. I certainly thought it was pretty decent. Far from perfect, and I will talk more about this in a moment. But in general, I thought it was a good experience. This was released in 2021. It's directed by Scott Chambers, it's written by Chambers and Sam Ashurst, and it stars Nicola Wright as Wendy. And Wendy is a woman with dementia, and she starts to be haunted by this Humpty Dumpty doll. And I don't want to say too much more than that. I think they made a real effort to try and connect the dementia and things from Wendy's past and her memories with this Humpty Dumpty doll. I don't really want to say anything about that beyond that, but I think in general that part of the narrative was well handled, and I thought it worked well. The pacing isn't great. I guess the only real issue I have is the pacing. The film's about an hour and a half, and I'd say I enjoyed maybe half an hour of it, but not one chunk of 30 minutes, just bits and pieces here and there. There's definitely a lot of fluff and padding, but I'd say maybe the last 15-20 minutes are very strong, and there are bits throughout it that are pretty good as well. And the bits that I really enjoyed. So definitely very slow, definitely room for improvement there, but the overall concept I thought was interesting. The character of Humpty Dumpty I love to hate, because the character design is it's horrendous, but in a very fun way. And I actually watched this. I chose to watch this because I was in the mood for a silly, fun horror film. There are plenty of horror films that seem to take themselves seriously, but they're just ludicrously funny. Maybe for the wrong reasons, maybe for the right reasons. And that's what I thought this would be. But I think because of the character of Wendy, I started to take it very seriously pretty early on. She is such a likable character, such a great protagonist, really strong performance. I became so emotionally invested in her journey very early on that actually it wasn't as silly and ridiculous as I was expecting. And there's nothing wrong with horror films that are silly and laughably funny and a little bit disturbing. They're absolutely fantastic. But that's not what I got from this, and that's what I was expecting. So it's actually a little bit stronger than I predicted. Generally well written, definitely pacing issues, but the overarching narrative I thought was pretty fascinating. Is it scary? Not necessarily. I watch a lot of horror films, so I've obviously built up quite a high threshold for horror, but there were some moments, usually because of the sound effects or the music, that were a little bit suspenseful. So there are moments, but I would never say I was scared at any point. Not necessarily even jump scares. There were just a few moments that were maybe a little bit dark, and I rather enjoyed it. So it's a good film. I wasn't sure what to expect. That being said, I don't think I expected this with regards to the characters, the atmosphere, the way it played out. I'm pretty happy. And if it sounds like it might appeal to you, if you've been considering watching it, but maybe some of the ratings have put you off, give it a go. It's not perfect, but there are actually some strong points. It's not the scariest. If you're new to horror, yeah, it might be a little bit scary. There are certainly some dark moments, but it's quite a nice, nice isn't the right word. It's quite a fascinating story. And as I said, Wendy definitely makes it an enjoyable experience because she's such a fascinating character. I really liked her. I really took to her emotionally very early on. And I think she, as a character, helped to make it a much better film, in my opinion. And in general, I'm pretty happy. As a one-time watch, The Curse of Humpty Dumpty was not a bad experience.